Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new here. My name is Washara. Yes, I've been gone for a minute. I haven't been here since, end of January, but I'm back now to discuss the book that I read during February and March. It was a really heavy book, and so you'll forgive me for being away for quite some time. And that book is My Year of Rest and Relaxation by Otessa Moshfegh. This again is literary fiction. As you may have seen on this channel, I really like to read that kind of stuff. And so this book is yet another example of a character driven book. It doesn't really have a build up or a climax, the moment where everything happens. We're just really following the emotional development of the characters that are listed in the book. Right from the get go, what was so interesting about this is the fact that our main character is unnamed. Like we follow her the entire time, but we never really know her name. She's a young lady in her 20s and she's going through a lot of stuff, and she lives alone in New York City. And a number of events have led her to where she is at this point in life. For example, her parents died when she was in her late 20s and in college. And she also got into a relationship with a much older guy. And she thought that he was, the example of what love is. But we see her grow in some ways in that regard, and yet she also goes back to him multiple times. And so her grand realization on how to deal with everything that's happening in her life, and the one question that she keeps asking herself is, what if the only way to fix life and to start anew, to turn a new leaf or a new page, is to sleep through the entire thing, to just decide one day I'm going to get on a number of prescriptions like drugs and just sleep my way through life until I decide I'm going to wake up and I'll transform into a new person. Obviously, that premise has a host of issues because it doesn't really consider the fact that you could die from abusing prescriptions, and now you could even branch off into a number of other drugs. And the reason why she does this is because for her, the idea of optimism, or just really, really looking forward to all the good things that life has to offer, is very delusional. And we see that through her friend Riva in the book, who is now on the opposite side of the spectrum. She's always doing facials and getting her nails done and buying expensive things. And, it's a 2000, so everyone wants to be like super skinny and, just living life in New York City. And she sees her friend as very delusional. And I'd like to read something from the book that highlights that. I took the note out and read it as a reminder of what she'd actually been like and how little she cared about me. It helped. Rejection, I have found, can be the only antidote to delusion. So, our main character's solution basically to all of life's troubles is to sleep through it. That's a really reductive way to go about life because, yes, life's challenges have really hardened her, but she's on a very catastrophic path, as you can see. And it earlier mentions in the book this idea of, totally shutting down and denying yourself the things that you really want by stating that I did crave attention, but I refused to humiliate myself by asking for it. I'd be punished if I showed signs of suffering, I knew. So I was good. I did all the right things. I rebelled in silent ways with my thoughts. My parents barely seemed to notice that I existed. A lot of us do this in life, where when we see that things are getting really hard, we decide that instead of hoping, like a young child, very very grand ideas, we just decide to shut everything off and say that I'll be okay with what I'm able to get. This isn't something that she does, but it's something that all the characters in this book do. There are very few, but they are all very similar because they're quite unlikable, and yet they're so compelling because we really want to see where this idea gets them. Like, how will sleeping for an entire year on prescription medication help you? Given the recent end of the Lenten season and also Easter, even though there are still a few more days of Easter left, it really got me thinking about this idea of self-abandonment and just, deciding to give up, and whether there've been any saints or any religious figures that have talked about this. And I came across two particularly. The first person that I came across was Saint Therese of Lisieux, whose work just emphasized this idea of childlike surrender and just accepting that your life is truly in God's hands, as opposed to just completely withdrawing and shutting down and resigning yourself from all the joys and also all the struggles of life. I also saw that St. John of the Cross had addressed this. So if you're interested in looking at, the spiritual side of this and just accepting, Christ's burden, because, in the Bible, it tells us that we should pick up our cross, and also at the same time it tells us that Christ's burden is very light, so we should put ours down and pick up his instead. It seems very oxymoronic, or paradoxical, like it doesn't make sense, but I'd invite you, whoever is watching this, to just investigate that on your own and see whether you do actually find solace and comfort in trusting God and trusting that your entire life is in his hands. This book was only 288 pages, and yet it took me some time, because it's generally the scenery is very dark, it's bleak. And what's interesting about this book, unlike other books that I've talked about on this channel, is that it's very character driven. It's not plot driven. By plot driven, I mean, for example, in a romance, there's the happily ever after that we're looking forward to, or in a mystery or in a thriller book, there's a murder, there's a big event that happens. In this book, we don't really go anywhere. We're just in this, we're floating, we're in this circle with the characters. They're very unlikable, but we're trying to follow them to see where they end up. And so, if you're into that kind of stuff, I would really recommend this book. Once again, I would really recommend that you look up the trigger warnings, because there's a lot. So I would say, don't attempt to rush through it, because there's so many lessons that can be learned through it. And in the end, you'll realize that you're doing a lot better than you think you're doing. And so don't procrastinate. Just keep doing the things that you've set out in your heart and in your mind to do. And don't always assume the worst of yourself. This isn't a book about sleeping, it's a book about what happens when you stop living. And the interesting thing with, mental health issues like, anxiety and depression is that, at least based off what I saw on TikTok and other, social media platforms, is that depression can't hit a moving target. And that's why a lot of people are really getting into, physical exercise and just moving your body, because our main character in this book is stationary. She's very sedentary. I think I'm saying that right. She doesn't move. She basically takes her pills and sleeps all day, and just waits for the days and the months to go by, anticipating that this one day she's gonna wake up being someone else, which is false, because she wakes up looking the same, being the same, but her body is deteriorating because of how much she's taking, and her spirit is also deteriorating because she's shut down all avenues for, for healing, for restoration, and for redemption. Now that the Lenten season is over, I would really encourage you to go out and to live life, and to live as though there is meaning, because our main character here is totally lost. She doesn't have any meaning, and she doesn't make any attempt to find her meaning in life until, like, literally the end of the book. That's it for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Kindly let me know in the comments if you read this book, so that we can just continue the discussion on positivity and optimism. Not toxic positivity, but rather a realistic and hopeful optimism for today and for the future. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.